Hello and welcome back. This is Dylan Freehoff, the Solution Engineer with Talend Software. We're here to talk about part 2 of data stewardship, the part about data resolution, finding data that's bad and fixing it. So to go through the first exercise of resolution, we need to first add a campaign. We'll call this clean emails. We'll make it a resolution task. My administrator account is already the campaign owner. I have to add a steward. We'll add both Jenny and admin. We have to select a data model. Once again, we'll use the customer data model. We can enable validation steps. Right now, we just look at new and resolved. However, also add it to a validation step so that the data governance goes from one user to clean, another user for approval, and then finally to resolve. We'll just keep it down to the 2 steps for this exercise and add the campaign. The next step in this process is to add the data by creating a studio job that will move the invalid email addresses out to stewardship. So I've started with just a CSV input, and from there I'm going to run it into a component called tPattern check. Bring the data into the pattern check, select the column I'm interested in, and that's the email address. Select the pattern that I'm looking for, so underneath the regex, under internet there's email address. Choose that. And then we can see that there's actually 2 paths out of this, a matching and a non-matching. So any of the data that does the matching will probably flow into some kind of database down the line that you want to keep the good data in. Right now we'll just put that into a log so that we can see it. So the last thing we want to do is bring everything that doesn't match the email pattern into the stewardship console. In the palette we have 3 components, and the data stewardship task output is the component that will take the rows of data and put them to the stewardship console. The stewardship out component just needs a little bit of information about where to find the stewardship server and the login credentials for it. Then we find the campaign that we made earlier, clean email address, and you can see it automatically fills in all the information as far as the label, the resolution, and we can automatically assign this when it comes over to one of our users. I'm going to assign it to the administrator when it uploads. You can put a priority on it to let everybody know if it should be done faster or not. You can upload them resolved or new. Resolved usually indicates somebody has already worked on them, so new would be the most predominant one of these. So now we should be able to execute this. All of our good email addresses will just go to the log, and all the ones that don't fit that pattern will go into the stewardship. So if we switch over to Data Stewardship Console, you can see that currently I have no unassigned tasks. And that's because when we uploaded, we assigned them directly to me. So if I switch from unassigned to the ones that are assigned to me, it will list all the rows of data that did not pass the check for email address. You can see some are missing the .com domain, some are nulls. So it's now the job of the data steward to go through these and either decide that they need to be cleansed or they need to be getting rid of. And something like null email addresses is not going to fit our marketing campaign. By selecting the white space up here, it will filter only where the email is equal to empty. So then that allows me to go to the row, select delete all the filtered rows, and submit. Now when I get rid of that filter, I'm down to just the email addresses that are just not quite correct. Well, after doing a little research, I found out that Marty is actually on yahoo.com, and I can fix these, and when they are fixed, I can commit them, and then they turn green. And this lets me know that I've now finished 20% of my assigned tasks. And you see that red goes away and it moves over. And when we're complete with as much as we can do, we can hit validate choices, which will now move them into the resolved area. So to bring this full circle, we've gone back to the studio, and I've started with just a simple stub job. We have the input component that's going to read the resolved clean email addresses from the Stewardship Council. And we have a delete component that's going to take and delete all the resolved ones after we've read them. Now, my last step is to take and read the cleansed email rows into the database. So I'm just going to use a MySQL output, and I'm going to call this good email. And if the table exists, I'm going to drop and create it. Now, the T-Data Stewardship has some extra columns that help you know what has happened, and we need to filter those out. And we'll do that with a T-map. So now we can go in here and hit the auto map. And you can see that we're leaving behind information such as like priority, state, the assignee, because we don't need those in our final database. And then when we execute this, now that this job finished running, you can see that we have one row of data, and that's the row of data that we resolved within Studio. When we flip over to MySQL, select rows, you can see this is the row that we've approved in the Stewardship Council. So this concludes part 2 data resolution of data stewardship. Tune in our next segment when we start talking about data merging. Thank you.